In this video, I want to demystify the use of abstract base classes. This is from the world of object orientation, and they're a rather intriguing and quirky feature of Python. And the best way to describe it is with a pretty simple explanation. So, suppose you want to create a range of different classes, but you want all of these classes to implement specific methods. You don't care what those methods do or how they behave, you just want those classes to implement them. Well, if you need this requirement, abstract base classes effectively come to the rescue, because what they do is they define a template or a set of rules for what a class should look like. We can then derive new classes from said abstract base class, and if that new class doesn't implement those methods, this is going to give you some issues. That's the whole point of it, really. If you envision a car manufacturing plant, we just said, okay, we want a car to have 4 wheels, a steering wheel, and an engine. Don't care what they look like, don't care how they behave, it just needs to have them. That's a little bit like how an abstract base class works. It's looking for the finished product, and just checking that it has ABC. Yeah, tick, cool, these things are there, I'm happy, I'm not going to be raising any kind of error. So I want to use a simple example, keep it as neat as possible, and just show you how an abstract base class works. And we're going to do so with this rather simple example here. Now, suppose you wanted to create a range of file managers, okay? Now, these could be CSV, Excel, text. Imagine we had a need to create several of these classes, but we wanted all of them to implement a way to write a file and a way to copy a file. So basically, these are our rules. Don't care how they write, we don't care how they copy, but we do care that these methods exist in the first place. So what we could do is define a really simple abstract base class for our file manager, define these as rules, so say, okay, you must have this, you must have this. So then when we come to create a specific file manager, such as a CSV file manager, as long as it has these two methods, it's fine and it's good to go. So I've said from ABC, import ABC and abstract method. Important to note, you can do things like, I just do this here, there are abstract properties, abstract static and class methods as well, but I'm just going to show the basic abstract method as this is the one that is most likely to be used. So the first thing I do is say class file manager, and I'm going to inherit from the uppercase ABC here, and there we go, just like that. Let's take a look at our first method, write file. All we do is use our abstract method decorator, so I can do this here, and underneath I can say def, pass in this here, I can say self, so we're inside a class, and to be honest, you can just write pass for the time being. For a simple, workable example, this will do for the time being. And to be honest, in those 4 lines, you could get away with using this in practice. So suppose, for example, I want to come along and now make a CSV file manager. Let's just kind of chuck this up here for the time being. Let's come down here and say class CSV file manager. This now has to inherit from my abstract base class. So I'm going to say my CSV file manager inherits from file manager. But let's first break the rule. Let's come along and say def, hello, self, and then just do, we'll just do hello for the time being. There we go. That should be fine for now. Now, if we hit run, we don't get any errors. And that's because we actually need to make an instance of this for it to, I'll say, quote, be checked. So let's just say CSV is equal to a CSV file manager. And now let's evoke an instance of my class. And now we have an error basically saying we can't instantiate this object with abstract method write file. Basically what's happened here is, because I've said this is derived from a file manager, this file manager has an abstract method called write file. This is basically a rule. So effectively, we need this. So because this doesn't exist in this here, that's why we're seeing this. So basically what we need to do, I kind of come in here for a second, is now do def, write file, self, and then let's do something like writing file for, I don't know, CSV. That'll do for the time being. The implementation details don't really matter in this case. It's more about the fact that we're implementing this. And yeah, check that out. So suppose, for example, if this was write file underscore, okay, this is now breaking the rule because this now isn't implementing this here. So let's remove that, try that again. Yeah, cool, we're good to go. Now let's implement this rule. So basically you could effectively copy these 3 lines here, bring this in, now change write file to copy file. There we go. Now you can probably guess what's going to happen. The class that is coming from File Manager, CSV File Manager, because this isn't implementing copy file, I think we're going to see a similar error, except for copy file. So we'll clear the screen, run this again, and yeah, as you would have expected here. So we need to now take this def, do this guy underneath, change write file to copy file, and now let's just change this just to at least sort of line up with something. Copying file for CSV. Clear the screen, and before we hit run, we'll just quickly check. Our class is being derived from this abstract base class here. Our abstract base class has said, here's a rule, you must define this method. Here's a second rule, you must define this method as well. And yeah, we've defined this, we've defined this. So when our instance on line 30 gets created, I don't see any problems here, and there we go, absolutely fine. One kind of neat trick you can do with this is without the decorator. So if I just said, for example, some utility, let's just print, I don't know, utility, that's right. So because this is defined in the parent class, but it isn't decorated with this is just kind of like your boilerplate inheritance. So hit run, no errors, that's fine. And then of course we can then do things like CSV dot some utility, and there we go, you can see it. So they're not just kind of good as a set of rules of here's what you must define in your subclasses. You can also utilize these as a way to perform just generic everyday inheritance. And that's all abstract base classes do. These are often seen as a bit tricky and a bit scary, but one more time, all these are really is a way to define a set of rules or a pattern for what a class should look like. In this case, we've decorated two methods with this abstract method decorator. This means that any class that is derived from this must implement write file, must implement copy file, and in this case, because my CSV file manager does, it's absolutely fine. Of course, that's when you see the errors. If you start to implement methods that don't belong to it, yeah, that's when things kick off. So there you are, guys. That is how abstract base classes work in Python. If you have any feedback or if you have specific ways upon which you use these in practice, I'd love to hear them, and feel free to ping us a comment down below. Cheers, and have a great weekend.